If you embark on a short vacation to the North Atlantic and Arctic regions, then muster all your courage to dive deep to about 2,200 meters, equivalent to 7,200 feet below the sea surface. You might encounter a species that I consider one of the most bizarre and uniquely appearing sharks. The Greenland shark. Creatures that, no offense intended, look like swimming mummies. However, they are even stranger than their appearance suggests, and as it turns out, their appearance doesn't truly reflect their inner nature. This might sound a bit confusing, so let me clarify. Take a look at their eyes, those protruding, sharp eyes. It's hard not to notice them. I've always thought that Greenland sharks, with those eyes, were endowed by nature to adapt to an environment lacking sunlight. In theory, this would help them easily spot hard-to-see prey, but in reality, those eyes are hardly useful. In fact, not only is their vision poor, but most of them are nearly eyeless. I'm talking about their eyes, the very things that are supposed to shape how they see the world. Because most Greenland sharks have cloudy, nearly useless eyes by legal standards. How many, you ask? Well, let's just say almost all of them. Scientists estimate that over 90% of them are shrouded in darkness, and some even claim that nearly 100% suffer from some form of blindness. Left with only the vague ability to discern faint streaks of light mixed with shadows. Simply put, they can barely see a thing. But don't rush to blame fate, because this blindness isn't congenital. It comes from a tiny troublemaker, one you might have noticed if you closely examined the photos I mentioned. Look at this picture. Zoom in on the eyes. Do you see that tangled thread-like thing on them? That's the pesky little terror I'm talking about. The one that's almost entirely robbed Greenland sharks of their light. Its name is Omatoa elongata, a copepod barely an inch long, but one that's chosen a life mission of clinging to Greenland sharks, gnawing at their corneas to survive. Talk about terrible tenants. Almost everything we know about this parasite is summed up right there, as they rarely, if ever, show up anywhere other than on the body of a Greenland shark. Over the incredibly long lifespan of a shark, it's believed that each one may host hundreds of generations of these parasites, which, sadly, offer no benefit whatsoever. At first, people hoped they might glow in the dark or do something useful to lure prey toward the shark. But alas for our deep-sea friends, that theory seems to be nothing but a pipe dream. So, they're practically eyeless, constantly nibbled on by parasites, moving sluggishly with slow-twitch muscles dominating their bodies, and living in a place that's basically a dark abyss. In short, everything seems stacked against them. But don't write off the Greenland shark just yet, because they always find a way to rise, even in the harsh food chain. Their secret lies in their extraordinary senses. Though their vision is so poor that calling it seeing is generous, they possess keen hearing, an exceptional sense of smell to detect carcasses from afar, and a precise ability to sense pressure that lets them map their surroundings in a miraculous way. Thanks to these senses, Greenland sharks become the ninjas of the ocean, especially with their stealthy slowness, which, surprisingly, is a strength. Most of their diet comes from that sharp sense of smell, guiding them to floating carcasses in the water. But they've also been known to silently drift toward many animals without being detected, before launching sudden lunges and ferocious bites. Their upper teeth act like anchors gripping into flesh, while their razor-sharp lower teeth slice off large chunks of meat. Their unlucky victims include seals, fish, and even whales. But listen to this, they've also been known to nibble on moose, horses, and reindeer, animals spotted swimming in the ocean and later found neatly tucked inside a shark's stomach. Don't forget, Greenland sharks are true giants, reaching lengths of up to 6.4 meters and weighing over a ton. And to add to the awe, even the king of the Arctic, the polar bear, isn't safe. A polar bear's remains were once found inside a shark's stomach, and analysis showed it wasn't a drifting carcass, but one that was eaten alive. So in the Arctic, you can't swim without worrying about a shark lurking. If the prey is small enough, they can unleash a powerful suction to swallow it whole. And yes, prey the size of a human is within their range, though, fortunately, attacks on humans are extremely rare, except, for that one human leg coincidentally found in a shark's stomach. But don't dwell on that. The point is, never underestimate these guys, even when they're dead. Greenland sharks are swimming bombs packed with toxins, more dangerous than any other shark species on the planet. Their bodies contain unusually high levels of urea and trimethylamine oxide, making eating their flesh a terrible idea. If you ignore the warning and take a bite, at best you'll be flooded with a host of problems from excess urea. At worst, well, let's just say you'll regret not listening. Typically, humans only face excess urea toxicity when their kidneys start to malfunction. The terrifying toxicity of Greenland shark meat even causes it to emit a pungent, ammonia-like smell, a trait enough to make anyone steer clear of this flesh. Or so you'd think. Yet, in some regions, Greenland shark meat is elevated to a rare delicacy, most famously in Iceland, where it's called hakari. Yes, the name sounds a bit deceptive, doesn't it? To make this toxic meat edible, it's fermented for over a month, a meticulous process that converts urea and other toxins into ammonia, which technically can still be dangerous, but, fortunately, reaches safe levels in the dish. Curious about the taste? Culinary expert Anthony Bourdain once described it hauntingly as the most disgusting, repulsive, and worst-tasting thing he'd ever tried. With such extreme toxicity, you might think Greenland sharks would excrete some of those toxins. But no, they hold on to everything in their bodies, barely urinating at all. What you'd call their urine is actually reabsorbed by their flesh, a mechanism that keeps them from dehydrating in the salty ocean environment, almost like a thick, salty soup. It turns out, urea is the unsung hero that prevents salt water from invading their system. And astonishingly, the urea concentration in their bodies is so intense that human urine pales in comparison, making almost no creature dare to eat Greenland shark meat, even when they're dead. But here's the craziest part. Despite carrying a body full of toxins, being nearly blind, and looking like they're barely clinging to survival, Greenland sharks proudly hold the title of the longest living vertebrate, with a minimum lifespan of 272 years, and the oldest individuals possibly exceeding 500 years, a number that leaves you speechless. To put it in perspective, 500 years ago, Martin Luther, not the one you're thinking of, but the reformer who sparked Protestantism and Lutheranism, was shaking up the world. Or, in other words, a Greenland shark born 500 years ago witnessed the time when Hernán Cortés toppled the last Aztec emperor. With such an ancient lifespan, it's no surprise that Greenland sharks reproduce prolifically, with females giving birth to up to 700 pups over their lifetime. But brace yourself. If a human pregnancy lasts 9 to 10 months, a Greenland sharks can drag on from 8 to 18 years, a commitment that leaves anyone in awe. So what's the secret to their longevity? There are a few reasons, but part of the answer lies in their unbelievably slow metabolism, so sluggish that their bodies and DNA repair themselves faster than damage accumulates. Each day, they only need 200 grams of food, less than 0.1% of their body weight, equivalent to a human thriving on just a few potato chips daily. Even when food is scarce, they can leisurely survive for over a year. With this slow-paced life, they grow at a snail's pace, gaining about 1 centimeter per year. When they reach sexual maturity, which only takes, about 150 years, they sometimes haven't even reached half their maximum size. Oh, and they don't really have a maximum size, as they keep growing until their final breath. They also possess remarkable cancer resistance thanks to peculiar genes, making them immune to tumors over centuries. Their bodies operate in a slow and steady mode with a heart rate of just 5 beats per minute, and they move slower than any other fish relative to their size. Crazier still, because they're so slow and old, some scientists speculate that they may perceive time differently from most animals. In short, Greenland sharks are bizarrely unbelievable creatures, and their mere existence is a wild feat. Naturally, when a species lives this astonishingly long, humans swarm in like vultures around a carcass. Recently, countless studies have been conducted to explore whether we can borrow their longevity secrets. But ironically, while we try to extract every benefit from Greenland sharks, we give nothing back. The greatest threat to them is humans. In the 1960s, Greenland sharks were slaughtered en masse for their liver oil, once thought to have medicinal properties. Fortunately, the advent of synthetic oils ended that practice. But since then, commercial fishing has become a new menace. Though not directly targeted, it's estimated that about 3,500 Greenland sharks are accidentally caught each year. Not all die, but many don't survive. Scientists predict that in recent decades, up to 50% of the Greenland shark population has been wiped out by fishing and other human impacts. With their long lifespans and late maturity, each death hits harder than it would for other species, making the conservation of these wondrous ancient creatures a daunting but urgently vital challenge. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.